Good morning, folks. I'm back out at Dad's shop today. Dad's here with me. Leo's chewing on a bone down there on the floor, so you'll get to hear that in the background through the whole video again. A couple weeks ago, I did a video on this lantern that I said I was considering parting out. My brother-in-law had picked it up. Leaking fuel everywhere here. My brother-in-law had picked it up for me at an antique store. I bought it cheap because I wanted this vent to put on another lantern, and I wanted this glass to put in another lantern. I was going to part it out, save all the other good parts, or lots of times we don't even part them out. We just take what's left, hang it up in the rafters, and know that that one's a parts lantern, so if you need to rob something off of it, you can rob parts off of it later. And all through that video, if you didn't watch it, I'll put a link to it down below, but in the comments, but all through that video, Dad kept saying, well, we'll have to fix that. We'll take care of that. And I said, no, this is a parts lantern.
Yeah.
So at the end of it, I said that if I got 20 people saying to fix it or save it in the comments, I would fix this lantern up. I'm not going to go all out on it, but I'll clean it up good and get it in proper working order and save it instead of scrapping it. And I think I had 20 comments saying that in about the first 6 or 8 hours that the video was up. Everybody was saying save it, and then some people started pointing out what I didn't realize, that this is a model 228E. 228 just means it's the big hat. 220 is the small hat version of the exact same lantern. 228E, but typically a 228 or a 220 E does not have the soup can collar. A Model E has this kind of vent that they had clear back to, I know that a 220B still has that same, so they had it clear back to the 30s. And this one is one of my dad's, still has a $10 price tag on it from wherever he bought it at. But yeah, typically an E model has that style vent, and an F model, I don't know if I can get this in close enough to read on there with the camera, maybe right there by my finger, maybe 220F. And that's what the collectors call the soup can Colemans. So several people pointed out, and I was not really aware of it, that this is a transitional model and should be saved because of that. There are a lot of people out there that are a lot more knowledgeable about these than I am. I know enough to work on them and get them going, but I don't know all the years that they transitioned from one to the other for sure, right? Like a lot of people know right down to exactly what month they transitioned and everything. But since this is a transitional model and it did light up and burn kind of on the fuel that's already in it, I have decided that I will indeed, since everybody said to, try to save this. This poor old vent is just falling apart, but I'm not going to replace the vent. It's original to this lantern, so I'm going to leave it on there. But it has holes rusted clear through the top of it. It's lived a life, that's for sure. That doesn't bother me. I like my stuff looking like it's been used and abused. So if you watched the video a couple weeks ago, you'll know this doesn't have a correct fuel cap. It's got a newer fuel cap on it. I am currently out of 3-piece fuel caps unless I rob one off of another lantern. And what's the point of that? I'll just wait until I buy another part slot off of eBay, or every once in a while we just come up with one somewhere. Find a lantern that's got the wrong cap on it, and then we'll put a correct one on it. So I'll end up getting a correct 3-piece cap for this eventually, but for right now I'm not going to worry about that. But we do have to worry about the fact that there's no pump in there. I've got spare pump assemblies that we can rebuild. But I'm going to have to get the check valve out of there. The check valve leaks by without even any pressure in it. You just tip it and, well, now it's not going to, of course, but you tip the lantern and fuel comes out of it. Let's go ahead and tear this thing down the rest of the way. And then we will clean everything up and put it back together. I'm not going to go crazy on cleaning. I'm not going to soak this in a vinegar bath to try to get all the rust off. I'll just hit it with some Scotch-Brite, knock the loose rust off. We'll clean it up good, shine it up as best as we can quickly here, and get it going. I don't know if people that watch the video will remember that the tip cleaner on this does absolutely nothing, and I've not even torn into it yet to see why. But my guess is that the tip is broke off the tip cleaner on the mantle. I've got some new generators that I bought. They're made in China, but they're cheap. I bought them off of Amazon. I'm going to try it out. They may be fine, they may be junk, but I'm going to find out. So let's go ahead and get this thing tore the rest of the way down. Now, these Instaclip mantles were good enough for me to light it up, but they both have holes at the tops of them, so they're shot already anyway. But it was kind of a fun, quick video to just see if this thing would light up with the fuel that was in it, these poor old mantles that were in it, and it definitely did. It's a real testament to the quality of the build of these old Coleman lanterns, that they can be in bad shape. We'll put those mantles down there on the floor. Dad can sweep them up next time he sweeps the floor.
I just left this morning.
So these lanterns can be in pretty rough shape and just come right back to life. First thing I'll do is pop this generator out of here. Let's get you in a little bit closer. First thing I'll do, we'll pop this generator out of here and see why the tip cleaner did nothing when I turned it. It wasn't excessively tight. Usually people have them torqued down to about 97 foot-pounds. Turn that to the up position to get it out of there. Oh. Dad's going to spray me with some carb cleaner.
That's good for you.
It helps. It definitely helps out.
Clean your sinuses.
Well, when I turn the tip cleaner, you can look right there, and the eccentric block is moving up and down. So that is working. So it's something inside the generator that's the problem, and that was what I suspected the whole time. I'm guessing when I pull this out of here, that tiny little wire that I always try to show you that the camera won't focus on, I'm guessing is not going to be there.
Or it's bent over.
The tip of the wire on the tip cleaner is gone. I'm kind of rolling it back and forth. I don't know if the camera's picking it up well at all. There's a little tiny bit of it there, and it's broken off and bent over. That was what I suspected was the problem all along. Usually that's what it is. The tip of the generator looks fine. I can see daylight through it. It also looks like it's still got the packing up inside of there. I don't know, the camera probably can't see it, but so I'll save this generator. I've got more of these tip cleaner needles. I can put a different one in there and make it work again. But for this video, we're going to try out the new made in China generator. We'll see if it works. Actually, let's hold it up right next to the old generator. Got to use the jam nut off of the old generator. They don't come with a jam nut, but they look pretty darn similar. The tip is a little different. But as long as the orifice hole is the correct size, that's all that matters. So we're going to give it a whirl and see what it does. Worst case, it won't work right. We'll rebuild an old one and put back in there. All right, let's knock this thing the rest of the way down so we can give it a little better cleaning. I got to get my bent wrench out for this. Always difficult to get in there. I'm going to loosen this, jam that up a little bit. Pretty certain somebody's been in here before because I don't think that would have ever had a Phillips screw in there. I don't know that I've ever seen another one with a Phillips screw. So somebody's been in here at some point in the past, but let's see if it'll come out or not. Heck yeah, it turns right out of there. I don't know what's that one got. Nope, that one's got a Phillips too. Maybe they did come with Phillips. Yep. Maybe just the older ones had the straight head. That's not stuck. Sometimes they are a little difficult to get turning. We'll blow this out. It was burning like it was full of
it acted like it
spider webs, and it wouldn't surprise me if you watch the other video. There were spider webs inside the globe when I lit the lantern. There we go. Here's our air tube. Ooh, those threads are rough. Somebody, I don't think I did that damage right there just threading it out with my bare hands.
No.
Somebody has had that out of there before and been rough on those threads. Well, I don't know how hard this is going to be to get to turn. Sometimes they're hard, sometimes they're not. I've showed this in other videos, but I'll show you again. The way that I usually try to break these loose is I get an adjustable wrench that'll slide right down over the body of that, get it on there, and then get another wrench or screwdriver or something that you can hook through the top of that. And if you're lucky, it'll just pop loose. If not, then we'll have to get the lantern vise out. Nope, it's coming. And it's coming the whole assembly from the tank up. This is kind of an awkward way to do this because you got to turn everything together. You still got that can that we drained the fuel out of that other lantern?
I got one here.
If something that's fairly clean. It's almost full of fuel, so we need a decent sized can, but something that's clean enough that we can reuse this fuel. We know it'll burn. It did light on it.
Stuck in the dumpling.
That'll work. Holy moly, that's a mess. Okay, let's set this whole thing off to the side for a second. I'm gonna put my thumb over that hole so I don't knock all that in there, but look at all that crap in there. I don't think I've ever seen that much stuff down inside of a collar on a lantern.
Been well used.
A lot of the people said don't paint this. I was gonna just give it a quick spray paint job, but
That's WD-40.
yeah, rust right there is a little. I want to knock that actually off of there and look underneath.
Kind of intense.
It's not pitted though. It's
Nope, it'll be fine.
It'll be okay. So yeah, here on the area that's got all that rust already, I don't mind hitting it with this coarse steel wool. I should be doing all this after I've dumped the fuel out of it.
I don't know why you're waiting.
Okay. Put that on there and then just flip her over and let that drain out. Now since this all came apart in one piece, I should have had or could have had this knob already pulled off there. We'd be lucky enough to have 2 direction discs on here. Nope. Sometimes you pull them apart. I've found a few of them that have 2 discs. This one is completely worn off. There's nothing left on it. No words at all. And look at that knob. That thing has been on fire at some point in its life, which is probably why the top of the fount has no paint on it also.
Yeah.
Got a little toasty at some point. Now I'm going to try to clean up this collar because this is a rare collar. Now that I got it off here where you can see it good, the fact that it's a soup can collar but still says 228E makes this a pretty rare collar. I'll bend it a little bit better back to round here. They're just aluminum. They're pretty easy to get massaged back into the shape you want them to be. We'll hit that with some steel wool and clean on that before we put it back together too. I'm going to run over and just gently clamp this part of the valve in the vise and get that apart, and then I'll be back. Alright, I just took this device, gently clamped this part in the vise to get it to hold so I can break it loose. I did have somebody ask me in the comments on one of the videos, I don't even remember which one now, but asked me about how this eccentric block goes in there. I know I've showed it before, but I already bent that. Need to straighten it out, so this is the perfect time to go ahead and tear this one apart and show you exactly what's in there. That broke loose easy enough. Sometimes I was going to loosen that packing up, I guess. I was on the packing nut, not on the bottom nut, but sometimes those are kind of hard to get out. But here we go. Before I even got it all the way out, that eccentric block is sliding up out of there. And let's see here. We'll just grab an old tip cleaner rod out of there just to show you. I always try to zoom in on it, but it's hard to get the camera to show that stuff sometimes. But you got this little piece in here. This is what, when you turn the tip cleaner, moves up and down, and that's hooked in there, moves up and down, and runs your tip cleaner wire through the tip. Hopefully that focused at least enough that you can kind of see what I'm showing. This is what, when you turn the tip cleaner, it's just got a little dog leg in the end of that rod that goes through there. That dog leg runs right in the channel, and that's what pushes that eccentric up and down. That's what runs the tip cleaner. It's pretty simple setup, but it works good.
Leo's got 4 of them.
For what?
Dog leg.
Oh yeah, I was thinking maybe I said paw of something, or yeah, he does have 4 dog legs. It's good to have good help around the shop, keeping me on my toes. That wasn't too terribly tight either. We'll pop that out of there. I know I've showed this on lots of videos, but it doesn't hurt to pop it out and clean it up. This is the rod that goes down through, and when you open a quarter turn, it keeps the hole in the bottom of that plugged so that we're only drawing vapors through these holes on the side. It draws the vapors from the top of the tank in, it goes down to the bottom, and then up an inner tube to the lantern. So when I got them apart, I always like to take this little spring out, give the spring just a little stretch. If you've got a lantern that is surging, there we go, when it's running, pulsing a lot, stretching that spring will often solve that problem. I guess, look through there. Yeah, you can't really see down through there. But I can see down through it. I've tried to show that on the camera a dozen times, but never picks it up. But it's clear all the way through there. We know that it worked because the lantern lit before. Set that aside. It didn't leak around the packing or anything, so I'm not gonna tear that apart. But this is where your knob goes on. When you turn the knob, that runs in and out, and opens and closes your valve to let the fuel through there. Just hit that just a little bit. I'm not polishing anything, I'm just knocking the loose debris off of here. Try to hold both ends of that and to push the middle back down in to straighten that bent tab. That way I don't, or not tab, that bent arm on here. That way I don't pop it loose from the welds. They're just probably just like a pinch weld on there. Let's see if we can get that pushed back in a little bit. Is that better? Oops. That's better, but it still needs to go a little bit more. Kind of get it right there on the edge of the table, that way I can push at both ends. That looks better. Alright, I'm gonna just take this coarse steel wool and go over and knock the rust off, and then take the fine steel wool and shine it up a little bit more, even though it's not going to be shiny at all. Alright, that's cleaned up good enough for my liking. I'm going to spray it down with a little WD-40 and let it sit over there on the floor drain and drip for a few minutes, and we'll wipe it down with a towel before we put it all back together. I keep saying this, but I'm not getting carried away. I'm just going to clean it up a little bit more with this fine steel wool. This is quad zero steel wool. It doesn't scratch stuff up.
Bottom looks real good in that.
Yeah, actually the bottom of this one is pretty good. Even where the paint's gone, it's not rusty at all. All that rust on the top just makes me think, well, and other evidence like the knob being melted and everything being dirty and sooty. The inside of this really shows evidence. Dad already cleaned that up. This poor old lantern's been a fireball before. Down inside the fount looks really good. I'm not going to bother with getting the borescope in. This video is going to be long enough as it is, but I'm going to spray a little WD-40 on the top of here on this bare metal. And then just wipe that down, and then we'll just wipe right down the sides of the lantern too. The WD-40 is not gonna hurt the paint. It will help protect it a little bit. And then all these bare spots on the sides of the lantern where it's chipped and scratched and banged up over the years, that way they get a protective coating of oil on them to help keep the rust at bay. All right, we got to get this check valve out of here so we can build a pump for this thing, because it's missing the pump. So grab my check valve tool here. I don't know if this has got the large diameter threads or the small. Looks like large. I've showed this in other videos, but there's 2 diameters of threads going into the check valves, large and small. If this check valve, if I can't get it freed up and working, I've got a replacement. The whole stem and check valve and everything that goes down in there all in one piece. And it is the small diameter one. Actually, this check valve is not in great shape anyway, so I might just put that in there and have a brand new check valve in it. Let's see here. Snug up the check valve tool a little bit. Oh, well, that wasn't hard to get out of there. Maybe somebody's had that check valve clear out of there before and didn't put it super tight back in. And there's the check valve. Doesn't look horrible. It doesn't look as bad as I thought it did looking down through there. The ball's not stuck, but it definitely did not seal. And since I'm missing the stem and everything, I think I probably will just put the whole new check valve that I've got in there. Save this one, I can still clean it up, and you can see where it's not, when I looked down in there, I thought it looked pretty bad, but you can see where somebody's had a screwdriver on there trying to turn it, and they've chewed up the corners of it a little bit, but it's certainly not terrible. But I don't believe that I have a large diameter stem to put down through there, so I'll just put the whole assembly that I've got here in it. Okay, after a couple minutes of digging around, I found my check valve and stem. I bought these up at the Amish store. It's convenient living close enough to a Amish community that you can run to the Amish store occasionally and still find parts that you're needing. So the check valve I took out of there, talking about the large and the small diameter threads that go down in there. And that's the difference. It's the hole down the middle, and then the threads on the end of your needle valve there are the correct size for whichever one you've got. And the removal tool has 2 stems that go down the middle of it to thread in there, large and a small. Now that I'm replacing this with the small, I'll have to use the small stem to put it back together. This new check valve has a rubber O-ring on it. I don't think it's necessary on this lantern to have a rubber O-ring, but I also don't think it's going to hurt anything to put it in there, so I'm just going to leave it and put it in there. Put that down in there. Slide the tool down on. Put the little keeper nut on there and snug it up a little bit.
And just keeps her seated good. So.
Yep, keeps it seated right down in there so you don't round the corners off on that. And they don't have to be
especially with a rubber ring on it.
Torqued super hard, just good and snug. That's all it needs. All right, this fount is a 220E fount. It's still got the stamp embossed in the side of it. The collar says 220E, but it's a soup can like a 220F style collar. Pretty cool. All right, well, I got everything tore apart to a mess. This is just about as far as you can tear it down. I could take the stem out of there, but that packing wasn't leaking, so I got no reason to pull that apart. If I did that, that would be as far as you can tear this lantern down. So let's start putting the old girl back together. All right. I'm gonna put my pickup tube. Yeah. I stretched that spring out now, so the spring's actually doing something there. Put the pickup tube in there. Oop. Just snug. It doesn't have to be super tight. Got this old wrench. I love that old little wrench. It's got a funky bend in the middle of it. Probably, maybe it was original or maybe not, but I just absolutely love old things like that. Lots of people just throw that thing away, but I put it in my lantern kit so that it still gets used. All right. Ooh, that's getting snug. The embossed Coleman logo's over there. I do not want to go clear around and line it up there because then my pump and my fuel cap are on the wrong side. So, and that's kind of good too because this is getting tight. I'd have to go 3/4 of a turn. You can see where this did have a sticker too. So being transitional, they had the embossed and the sticker on it. That's kind of cool. So we're going to line this up right above where the sticker was. Now that we got this whole thing tore apart, you can actually get a wrench on here instead of trying to go from the top down.
Yeah, that's going to work.
That is
About right, isn't it?
close enough to make me happy. Okay, even without taking those burner caps off of there, you can blow air up through the burner caps. You can plug off the burner caps with your fingers and blow air into that center hole. The goal is I want to blow the air so that it comes back out that tube instead of blowing it up in there. That way if there's debris in there, you're blowing it back out of there instead of blowing it up into the manifold where it's going to be a problem later on.
Got some stuff out of there.
Yep. Yeah, there was definitely some spider web and debris that came out of there. All right, wipe down my burner cage here. Now wipe all the excess oil off. Once we started, it's going to smoke because I sprayed WD-40 all over it, but it'll burn off the excess WD-40. But I feel like it still leaves a little protection on there. Makes me feel better about it anyway. There we go. I'm not going to get carried away. Dad shined that up a little bit. That's good enough. Because the rest of the lantern I'm leaving rough too, so I don't want to go crazy polishing on that. Yeah, the threads inside of there are not great either, but they'll work. Thread that down in there, and we want to get our tip cleaner lever in the right position here, which when the lantern's facing straight towards you, the tip cleaner should be clocked off. I guess if you're talking like a face of a clock, at about 1.5. So we'll tighten this down, and when it's pointing in that right direction, that's where we'll call it quits. You don't have to usually worry about leaks too bad on these because you're threading brass to brass. They seal up pretty good. They don't have to be torqued down like crazy to get it to seal. So I'm going to call that good right there. Now this is kind of, I guess not really tricky, but a little bit. Which is why I usually don't tear them apart, but since somebody had asked, I'll go ahead and find my bent wrench, snug up this jam nut, and then we'll get the tip cleaner eccentric put back together. I wish I could remember which video it was that they commented on, but without looking through hundreds of comments, I wouldn't be able to find it again probably. The jam nut doesn't have to be torqued down super tight either. It's just got to be snug enough that the cage doesn't wiggle around real easy. So you can tell it's getting cold outside. The furnace is kicking on more often. Yeah. Next week's supposed to be dang cold here in Iowa.
25 this morning.
Yeah, we'll put the other part together first. Less stuff in the way to get my fingers in there to do stuff, I guess. This tip cleaner eccentric, I like to just grab it with a pair of pliers. You got to make sure it's in there the correct way. The notch in that eccentric block has to be pointing the direction that your tip cleaner comes in from. So you got to put this back in there with the notch in the block facing towards where your tip cleaner comes in, and with the notch for your tip cleaner lever to go into pointing up. And just drop that right down in there. It won't go clear through. It bottoms out and stays put in there. And then we got to get our cage lined up right so that
Close.
this will thread right in there. I guess one more thing I could have taken apart. I could have taken that jam nut off, but then all you can do is slide that out to replace the packing. This did not leak when I had it going, so there's no reason to tear that apart. put that in there, thread it right up in there. Get my fingers in the way of the shot, but it's a lot easier that way. So now, once we start getting close in there, you've got to get this tip cleaner eccentric up. You can't leave it clear bottomed out because it goes down in there sometimes farther than where this will reach. So what I like to do, it already slid back down in there, there we go. What I like to do is get an old the tip cleaner out of a generator and put in there so that you can work this up and down a little bit and just keep threading. It already caught right there. You can just work that up and down and keep threading that in, and eventually when you're sliding that in and out, working that up and down and threading this in, that little dog leg in there will drop right down into the groove in that eccentric block. Then once it's in there, when you turn it, you'll see that the eccentric block starts riding up and down on there just like it's supposed to. Then you can snug that down the rest of the way. One other time when I tried to put it together, I had it up, standing up, and it was really a pain, and I just had the idea like, oh, if we just lay it on its side, it'll kind of won't be fighting gravity quite as bad. Now let's snug that up. Once again, snug, not torqued. It's just got to be,
Hold it together.
yeah, it's got to be tight, but not overly tight. If that is as clear as mud.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see if we can get these poor old threads to thread back in there. Actually, I'm going to give them a little bit of help. I know it's in bad shape, so that'll have to burn off of there once the lantern's gone, but let's give her a little bit of juice on there to help this thread back together a little better. Once you get threading it down in there, you got to watch this hole so that when the hole in the air tube lines up with that, so you can get your screw put in there. Well, as bad as those threads are, it's really threading together decent. It looks like I probably got about 2 more turns to go, and actually that might be it right there. Let me turn it where I can see it, because you guys aren't going to yell stop when it gets there. So 1 more turn. Right there, the holes are lined up.
Phillips screw back in there.
Yep. I already said in this video, I'm not an expert. I don't know everything about them. I've got too many hobbies to know everything about one. I just have to know enough about each one. And every time I learn something new, I have to forget 2 old things to make room for it, so. There we go. Air tube's back in. Tip cleaner lever moves up and down nice. Put this old melted knob back on there. I'm going to put the melted side at the top. It shows character that way. This old directional disc doesn't have anything left on it. It's just completely wore off.
Looks nice in there though. That one's still straight.
Yep, that I'm surprised that I've never noticed that before, but honestly, it's probably something that I just never paid attention to.
Yeah.
I guarantee I've taken them out before, but there we go. Knob's back on there. Let's get this made in China generator in there and we'll see how that ends up working out. Actually, while we got it right here, usually just tapping like that, there we go, the tip cleaner will fall right out. I didn't necessarily want it to fall that far out. It does look just like an old school. I've got one of these springs in here. I can compare that. They look pretty much identical. I got this destroyed tip cleaner, but you can see the cardboard, or the old ones are probably asbestos. I don't know what this material actually is, but
Yeah, the old ones were asbestos.
But whatever it is, it looks the same. The tip cleaner, like it. Honestly, if I was looking at this and didn't know it was a made in China, the only thing that would be a giveaway is the fact that they're not nozzle. What's the word I'm looking for?
Orifice.
Orifice on it. Yeah, their orifice is definitely shaped different than the old original Coleman ones. But like I said earlier, that doesn't matter. The size of the hole through the middle of it matters, but the shape of it doesn't make any difference. So let's try to not destroy my tip cleaner wire and slide this spring back down on there. Slide that back up inside the generator. I can save the jam nut off of the old generator because the new generators, even the Coleman ones, often don't come with a jam nut. You got to put your old jam nut back on there. I'm amazed I didn't install it in here and then remember that.
I was waiting for it.
Have to take it back apart. That's how I typically do things. Now I just like to get a hold of the little tip cleaner wire with a pair of pliers. Then you can get right in here, get the end of the generator up in the hole where it belongs. Get the bottom of the generator clipped right in there. Then you can turn your tip cleaner lever down. That captures it right in there so it can't fall back out. Yeah, it was a little off kilter there. Okay, what do we got going on here? There we go. The generator just not slid down all the way yet.
I figured you had the nut upside down.
Nope. You need to have more faith in me. There we go. It just wasn't slid down all the way. We're about to find out how this made in China generator is going to work. I got them off Amazon and they're significantly cheaper, although I probably still will buy most of my stuff from the old Coleman parts. I just wanted to try these out, see how they work, but honestly, I prefer to support a small business over Amazon typically, but I saw these on there and they were cheaper. And if at the time your budget doesn't allow buying a $25 generator, but you can get a $10 one, we're going to see if they work or not. Well, I'm looking it over. I think I need to put a pump together now. I've got a pump. This is a newer style pump that's supposed to have a rubber pump cup on it, but it doesn't have any pump cup on it. I'm going to put a leather one on it. You can put a leather one on the newer stems. So if you don't have one at all and you buy a modern replacement, but you want the leather instead of rubber, you can take the rubber off and put a leather one in there. All right, I was digging through there looking for this little spring clip that holds the pump assembly together, and while I was looking in there, I found a good directional disc in my parts. So I'm gonna leave the old one behind there because I won't put this old one on a different one because it's completely, the lettering's completely gone off of it, but
Gotta save it.
yeah, I'm certainly not going to throw it away. It's the original one to this transitional lantern, so I will definitely keep it and just double them up. Like I said, it's not uncommon to find double directional disc, and I'm not sure that that's the exact correct 100% authentic. The fuck is that?
Geez, something blew up. It wasn't the electric.
Well, there's nothing out there. Okay, back to the lantern. Nothing exploded outside here. I'll have to edit out a couple words that I said when that happened.
Well, something exploded, but we don't know what.
Yeah, it's not right in our yard anyway.
And electricity's still on, so.
Okay, I don't remember. Oh, I was putting that directional disc on there. Also, while I was looking in there, I found an old rusty, crusty ball nut because this just had this old 1/4 inch nut on the top of it. So we'll throw that on there too. All kinds of goodies when you get digging to the bottom of the bag of parts. Now these ones that come with a rubber, they don't have a nut on there. They got a spring clip. You got to get a pair of pliers, get a hold of this spring clip, work it off of there. All right, and you just put your leather pump cup on there, and you put your little piece back on there, and if you got sockets, the easiest way to get that back down on there is find a little socket to go around there, and then just like that, that clip slides down on there. We got a brand new leather pump for this old lantern. I'm gonna just take it over and just dip it in the Marvel Mystery Oil over here. There's a really good reason that I use Marvel Mystery Oil on this instead of anything else. That's because we've always got it here and I like the way it smells. So that's what I use on it. A lot of people swear by using neat's foot oil. That's what Coleman sold to use on it. And that's fine too if you've got it. And you can just use motor oil. It doesn't matter. They say, oh, if you use the wrong oil, it'll rot the leather of the pump. I've got ones that we used motor oil on for decades and I've never replaced the leather on them. They're fine. I only started using Marvel Mystery Oil when we got Model A's because I always keep some around for them and I like the smell of it. There we go. I always position the little oil hole up at the top. It doesn't matter. That's just how I prefer to do it. Now my fingers smell good. What did I do with that clip?
Pick it up.
There we go. Get in there. Yeah, I went plenty far with it, that's for sure. There we go. I didn't know for sure if this was supposed to have the clip or the screws in there, but I did not see any threads or any evidence of anything being threaded into those holes. So the bail clip is fine.
Both of these older ones have bail clip on them.
There we go, that's working. Let's give it a few pumps and see if it builds any pressure in here. That ought to work.
Yep.
Well, I think I'm going to reuse that fuel. We know it burned.
Yep. It looks good.
It looks good. It's got a blue tint to it, but you can see it's got my funnel with the little felt in it to catch any chunks. I tried to bend this kind of to the shape of a pour spout on there. Dad went over and dug around and found some sea foam. I'll put a little bit of that in there. That'll help with that old fuel. And if there's any room after that's in there, we'll put some new fuel, but I don't think there's going to be much room. I think it was
pretty full.
Yeah, I think it was almost overflowing full, so put a little shot of sea foam in there. Is that funnel plugged up?
No, I think the sea foam's just too thick. Does that make sense?
All right, let's see what kind of mess I can make trying to pour that in there. Oh, Jesus. All right. I'm going over the floor drain over here to pour the rest of that in there. Maybe there will be room for a little bit of fresh fuel by the time I fill a quarter of that.
Let's leave that set out and dry out now.
There we go. Alrighty. Well, that is, yeah, that's, I could have fit a few more teaspoonfuls in there, but not much. I'll find a correct cap eventually. I'm not concerned about that. This cap works and doesn't leak off the pressure, so we'll go ahead, pump it up, then I'll tie the mantles on. We'll see if this old girl is gonna burn better than it did the last time. All right, mantles are tied on. I'll cut these strings off so we don't look like a bunch of amateurs here. Throw those on the floor down there. Dad can sweep them up when he sweeps up those broken mantles. There we go. Let's see, get this poor old almost out of fuel lighter back out of here.
There's another one under the toolbox if you need it. I think it's about out too.
Yeah, I hate to give up on this one until it's absolutely completely empty. There's that one. And that one. Let those burn in for a minute, and we'll put the globe back in here. This is probably a newer globe than this would have had. I'm not sure. I'll have to look. I'm not positive what 1963 would have had, but I'm pretty sure this is like a globe from the 80s. Put the old vent back on there, get this crusty old ball nut that I found in there. Looks like it matches the rest of it, and at least it's a ball nut instead of a just an old 1/4 inch nut. All right, let's back this camera up just a little bit here. Let's see what she does. It's already pumped up. It's gonna blow air for a while because we had everything apart, so there's no fuel in anything all the way through the system. So it's gonna take a minute to get fuel through there. Whew, it hisses loud. Let's see if the tip cleaner does anything. Yep. Well, I can't say that I'm impressed with that made in China generator. It's already given me trouble. Yeah, that made in China generator is already junk. Well, good thing I bought 5 of those. Let's see if I open the valve farther, if it does anything. I don't think it's going to do anything. No, it's not even hissing anymore. So unless we bled all the pressure off of it that quickly, which I can't hardly believe. No, it feels like there's still plenty of pressure in there. Well, I can't say that I suggest buying any of those made in China generators.
Nope.
I guess it was worth a shot. I did it, so now you don't have to. Yeah, it's not doing anything. Not doing anything. Alright, let me pause here for a minute and see if I got enough scraps to build a generator out of an old one here. Well, I don't have enough parts to put together an old, I don't have a good tip cleaner rod to go up the center of an old generator. That made in China one lasted all of 5 seconds before it died.
Something happened to it anyway.
So I'm going to take it apart. I've got one new old stock 220E 5891 generator, and it's the one that came with one of my lanterns, and it was from a Woolworth store. So if I have to, I can use that. Maybe I'll try another one of the made in China generators on here. Just slap another one in here. See if it happens to work. Maybe the one that I tried was the one out of the box that's no good. Calm down. So yeah, maybe the one that I tried out of that was the one out of the batch that was junk, but I feel like that would be a bit of a coincidence to try the one that was no good, but we'll see. The generator didn't want to come back loose, but I got it loose now. Let's drop it out of there and see exactly what happened with it. Tip cleaner wire looks fine. That's weird. I can see straight through there. I can't see any reason why that wouldn't work.
I wonder if the pickup tube.
No, there's fuel. There's fuel at the lantern. If I, no, we got boatloads of fuel. Let's put this. Does not make any sense. Okay, I see nothing with this generator that would lead me to believe that it shouldn't work. So I'm going to give it one more try. I don't know what happened there. You saw exactly what went down, but I really that tip cleaner
Not doing anything.
is not doing its thing. So now that everything's too hot to touch, let's switch the generator and put this antique one from a Woolworth store. I'm going to very carefully take it out of the package so that I can save that package. I said I wasn't even going to use it, but it's the only new old stock one that I've got here at the moment. So we will slide it out of there. I'll still save that package. That's pretty cool. Well, everything is too hot to touch now. That's really convenient. The Made in China generator is stuck again. I don't know why it's doing that. It's something with it where it goes up into the air tube at the top, apparently. I'm just going to say, I'm not impressed. I will not be buying any more of the Made in China generators. Good thing I bought 5 of them to try it out. So hey, if anybody wants to buy some Made in China generators, I got 4 of them for sale. Make you a hell of a deal.
And one used one.
Yeah. Oh, for fuck's sake, try to get that out of there without hitting those manholes. Ah, that's hot. It is. It's toasty. Alright, let's put the new old stock Coleman in there. I've got higher hopes for this.
Put on there.
Oh yeah. See, it's a good thing I got you around here.
Don't put it on upside down.
Let's. It's hot. Good thing I keep you around here. I mean, also it's your place, so I can't hardly get rid of you, but. Alright, let's put this new old stock generator in there. I've got much higher hopes for this. Drops right in place where that other one just didn't seem like it wanted to fit quite right and go in there. Well, this one went right into where it was supposed to be. Alright, let's try this again. Open quarter turn. There we go. That generator is full of air. It's already burning better than it did with that other generator.
Yep.
Let's try this tip cleaner.
Yep, looks like it should.
Functions just like it should. So, the Made in China's, it's still warm. I don't understand it. The tip looks fine. I wonder if I could at least use that tip cleaner rod and spring and packing out of these.
If it's the same length, that might be what the trouble is.
I don't know. I'll do some experimenting. I might be able to use some parts out of those, at least justify the money that I spent on them, make them work with the old generators and just use the guts out of those ones. Put this,
put the glass in first.
put this bad boy back together and
Yeah. Do you need that washer on there? Because the hole looks pretty big in the top.
yeah, no, I don't need it. It's not going to fall off. There we go.
Very nice.
Burning nice. Glad that some of the people in the comments pointed out that this is a transitional lantern and should be saved. I would have been sad to see this one get trashed. And you all know that I like the stuff that shows its age. I like it with the chips and scratches. Alright, we'll get a shot of this at home in the dark tonight. Okay folks, we're here at home. I got the old lantern out here burning in the dark at home. It fired right back up. I actually lit it back up about a little afternoon when I got home, and it's about 6:30 now. Good and dark, wintertime in Iowa. But I came out here just to pump it up, and it's sounding pretty low on fuel, so I figured I better get out here and film the end of my video before I let this thing run out of fuel. So thanks for watching, everybody. I'm glad that people on the last video commented and made me realize that this is a transitional lantern that definitely was worth saving. It's a good old runner now. If you enjoyed the content we're putting out, the best thing you can do to help support our channel is just let the ads go when they come up. I go through on almost every video I put out and delete half the ads that they try to put in it, so you don't have so many to watch. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave a comment. If you know someone who might be interested, share the video with them, and come on back next week. We'll have a video of something here for you to watch.